Welcome to CBS This Morning. We begin with this. Prosecutors are urging more women to come forward in the sexual abuse case against Jeffrey Epstein. He's a well-connected billionaire financier. The 66-year-old is charged with sex trafficking and conspiracy. Now, prosecutors say the alleged sex ring may have involved dozens of underage teenage girls.
Epstein pleaded not guilty yesterday in New York City, 11 years after accepting a secret plea bargain for similar charges in Florida. His lawyer says the case was settled then, and New York prosecutors want essentially a do-over. Mola Lenghi is outside Epstein's home in Manhattan. Mola, people were wanting to read this indictment all weekend. What did we learn from it?
Well, good morning, Tony. The indictment claims that Jeffrey Epstein knew that some of the young girls he preyed on were just 14 years old, and that in some cases he used the victims to recruit even more young women and grow his network of sexual abuse.
The alleged behavior shocks the conscience.
The newly unsealed indictment alleges Jeffrey Epstein started abusing underage girls in 2002 with alleged encounters at his New York City mansion and Palm Beach estate. According to prosecutors, victims were initially recruited to provide massages to Epstein, which would be performed nude or partially nude, and typically include one or more sex acts.
The girls were recruited in a variety of ways, usually by employees of Epstein and sometimes by fellow victims. The victims typically received hundreds of dollars in cash.
Over the weekend, federal agents forced their way into Epstein's $77 million New York City townhouse. You can see the damage to the door. During their search, investigators say they discovered at least hundreds and perhaps thousands of sexually suggestive photographs. Some were allegedly in a locked safe containing compact discs with handwritten labels such as "Girl Pics Nude." Epstein pleaded guilty to sex abuse in 2008. Then U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta negotiated a secret plea deal with Epstein's attorneys that required the former investment banker to register as a sex offender and serve 13 months in a Florida county jail. Today, Acosta works as President Trump's Secretary of Labor. Acosta defended the plea deal during an April budget hearing.
The facts in this case were presented to a grand jury that initially recommended, not initially, that actually recommended a charge that would have carried no jail time at all. And at the end
Do you regret making this deal in secret?
And at the end of the day,
Do you regret making this deal in
Congresswoman,
secret?
if I could finish, if at the end of the day, Mr. Epstein went to jail.
Over the years, Epstein's established relationships included President Trump and former President Bill Clinton, who rode Epstein's private jet in the early 2000s. His spokesman said the trips were related to work with the Clinton Foundation, adding, "President Clinton knows nothing about the terrible crimes Jeffrey Epstein pleaded guilty to in Florida some years ago, or those with which he has been recently charged in New York. He's not spoken to Epstein in well over a decade." Attorney David Boyce represents 3 of Epstein's alleged victims.
They hope that Mr. Epstein and the people who worked with him and enabled him are finally brought to justice. And this looks like an important first step in having that happen.
Now, the White House has not responded to requests for comment, and the Department of Labor has yet to respond to CBS News' requests for comment about Secretary Acosta's involvement in the case. Epstein's expected to make his next court appearance on Thursday for a bail hearing, and prosecutors are requesting that he remain in custody until his trial. They say his extraordinary wealth, that his access to private jets, his homes abroad, and his lack of family ties in the U.S. here, Gayle, make him an extreme flight risk.
All right, Mola, thank you very much.